Hello. Hello.
Hello.
How is it going?
Good, good. How are you doing?
Doing good.
Nice.
Yeah, I am seeing you for the first time around here.
Yeah. Yep. It was just recommended to me to join. So I'm yeah, excited to see what uh what discussions go on.
Yeah. Do you have any specific topics you'd want to discuss today?
Um it was so I saw this is for gatekeeper specifically. The work we're doing is more just generally with OPA policy agent. So I don't know if there's other meetings or if this covers that too. But yeah.
We generally are maintainer of gatekeepers, maintainers and uh, contributors of gatekeeper. I'm also not sure if there is another community meeting for OPA itself.
Yeah, I believe there's a separate community meeting. Let me see if I can find it.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, Max.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How about you?
I'm all right.
You are wearing Spider-Man t-shirt.
Oh yeah. It's a crew T-shirt.
Crew?
Yeah, I did VFX for the for or helped with VFX for the not Toby Maguire, sorry, the Garfield reboot.
Oh, that's really cool.
Oh, that's cool, yeah. Do you have background in VFX? Like,
Uh, Orthogonally, like I did physics is one of the things I did in college, and then my first job out of college, I worked at Sony ImageWorks as a production services technician. So it's kind of like managing the render farm, and but I did wind up doing like a bit of, they call it FX, which is like physical simulation work for one of the Smurfs movies.
oh,
Wow. Quite a journey you have been through to end up maintaining gatekeeper.
Yeah, life is a winding road.
I wish we could say Gatekeeper help with Spider-Man.
I mean, maybe indirectly.
Yeah, yes.
I probably the other way around, because
Spider-Man
yeah,
help Gatekeeper.
yeah, because like render farms are basically like big ol' Kubernetes clusters, right? Like obviously not literally, right? But they're compute clusters. So this is kind of my first experience with distributed computing, I would say.
That's interesting.
Again, I was looking at it, the OPA community call. I didn't see anything, but you might want to ask in the Slack channel for OPA, and you might get more information there. I drop a link for the OPA community, and then you'll see the Slack channel there.
Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
No worries. And then if you have any like gatekeeper specific questions, yeah, we are here like every week on Wednesdays. So yeah, feel free to drop by anytime.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it, y'all.
Yep.
Take care.
Thank you for stopping by.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for having this open. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye.
Cool. Do we have any
Yeah.
agenda today? Oh, I see. Jay has mentioned. Okay.
Yeah, so that's basically like what updates we want to share with Charlie so that he can include them in the talk he's doing. So these are a bunch of like on 3 pointers that I could find that we would maybe want to share. That's between 316 and 317. If we have anything else, or
I
we
would
can.
say, oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't realize the scoped enforcement was a separate point. Yeah, one thing I think we could couch is like the extra use cases, scoped enforcement actions unblocks. Like, I don't know, maybe it's obvious from the wording, but like, there were specific things that people had of like only run this in audit or in the webhook or whatever.
Yeah, I remember turning off audit was the initial request per constraints from which we fabricated this whole uh, document and design.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, right? Like this will be just pointers and updates. So maybe it would be a part of the speaker's note that he would say during the slides. Okay, cool. Yeah. So after the meeting, I'll just reword the points and then uh, like share bullet points and speaker notes with Charlie. So
Yeah, I think those are good. Anything that we are missing or should add?
other ones are I found a little minor one like connect operation or uh, yeah, other
Yeah,
not.
let's focus on the big ones. Yeah, I think if we spend more time on like the VAP, the cell stuff, and then the VAP generation and whatnot. Yeah,
So these three are good.
yeah, I think so.
Okay, cool.
And I think he's looking for just the bullet points, and he's going to speak to those.
Yeah. He is gonna speak on gatekeeper topics as well.
Okay, cool. Cool. Yeah, I think those good. So say the cell, VAP, and scoped enforcement action, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah, and then thank you for driving this, Jay. Can you sync with Charlie? You're okay to just drop the notes in the
Yeah.
thing, and then feel free to explain to him, set up a call if he needs any help.
Yep. Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. Apart from this, I could use reviews on library PRs. Uh, so I addressed most of the comments. So sorry if I missed any. I'll double check, but I'm sure I addressed all of it.
This is library PRs for like VAP.
Yeah, cell
We're
codes.
returning to those. What's up?
Cell adding cell codes to library PRs.
Got it. Yeah. Okay.
I'm not sure if you want to like have generate VAP field set there in library PRs. No.
No, I think just generally it shouldn't be set. And that lets the user set the default behavior.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
can.
Yeah, cool. And I also, like, based on our last communication and discussion, I also wrote up design doc around interface, and I shared it in chat, and I have a PR up as well for like adding it to proposals. So whenever you guys can, just keep it.
Yeah, I saw it last night, but I haven't had a chance
Yes,
to
sir.
read it yet.
Yeah, I know it was like a bit of a last minute ping. So
Yeah. Cool. Anything else for you that you wanted to talk about?
no.
No. Okay. Yeah, I don't. I put a link here because I think it's interesting, but someone finally did the thing I thought would happen, where now that VAP is available as an option, they've started to develop a library of VAP definitions and maybe bindings. I'm not sure. I honestly haven't like read too deeply into it yet, but I thought people might be interested to see a thing people are doing with just like raw VAP, and so we could see, whether we need to do anything else to avoid competing with VAP and instead complement it.
Yeah, I mean, this seems similar to what we have in the Gatekeeper library, right?
Oh yeah. It's like similar policies. I'm sure. Probably, there may be like library lessons to learn here, but I think more the salient point is okay. So people are trying to use raw VAP, and they are like trying to have them be consumed by users, and I think that potentially, right, the one thing we don't want people to, the situation we don't want people to be in, if we can avoid it, is them needing to choose between using built-in VAP and using like the policies that are already existing and directed at built-in VAP versus using Gatekeeper, right? Like that's inevitable to some extent, but anything we could do to lower the friction, right? Where if someone has a VAP policy, it could be like very quickly made compatible with Gatekeeper. That could be a boon. Why they would care if it's already in a VAP policy would basically be use cases beyond admission, right? Like if all they care about is admission, then whatever. But I think that Gator, audit, down the line, if we ever get to it, like packaging and distribution and collation of results, those are things that VAP will not offer, even if it can enforce the admission time. Even if it can do the admission time enforcement. The one kind of weird thing with VAP, obviously, is that because it's hyper focused on the admission use case, right? And because it can basically assume that it's embedded into the K8s API server, there's things that VAP can do that Gatekeeper cannot do, right? Like access to the authorizer, like version conversion are the two big ones, I would say. Defaulting as well, right? And sort of guaranteed access to whatever schema and information exists for things like CRDs, and version skew is less of an issue, right? Because the API server defines the versioning of the API, so you're not going to get barring like a multi-headed API server that's in the process of a rollout, you're not going to get split reality in terms of like which fields are definable. So there's, in terms of like eliminating friction, that's where I say probably not possible, right? Some things just don't translate to audit. But it's worth keeping an eye on.
It seems like they have some sort of CRDs too. I was looking at the library.
Oh yeah, so they're using parameters, which is another good thing, right? The fact that they are interested in the reusability aspect, right, versus using only just the raw policy definition and using that as an enforcement mechanism, right? Maybe with a binding. One says there's openness to the idea of parameterization. It's not just like Gatekeeper is really weird and out there. Two, this is something that is like Gatekeeper's bread and butter, right? Like we just happen to, I kind of view a constraint template as a mashup of both a policy definition and the CRD that backs the parameter resource, as they split them out into two distinct objects. So it's a little bit of validation. It's a little bit of good news in the sense that this is something that we do natively already versus like Caverno, the third-party resource providing parameters that configure execution is like a newer thing for them, right? And I haven't like dug into how they're dealing with it, so I don't know like how well it gels with their pre-existing API decisions.
Yeah, I always wanted to add like a sort of like a policy library into Gator, so that I'll have Gator manage the policies.
For
like
like retrieval and stuff, you're saying? Like
yeah, like update the policies or like auto deploy, that sort of stuff. Like say Gator install allowed images or something like that. I think that would make this much easier because today the experience is like, hey, you have to go to the library and then copy paste a bunch of stuff. And then yeah, it works, but it's just like it's very static there. If you want to uninstall, and there's like, you have to delete the constraint templates and all that stuff. What if we could like have like Gator manage these policies, and then you don't have to deal with anything else. You just basically say Gator install that. So kind of like turning Gator into like sort of Helm for policies.
Yeah, and honestly, that was like the end game of why have constraints, templates, all of that stuff. So 100%. You know, and there's other configurations you can imagine. Like, I don't know where Gator ends and something like Customize or whatever begins in terms of like adding in scoping and like common customizations, right? Like if you have different enforcement actions for different environments, dev versus prod, you know, is that something that we want to build tooling around, or is the existing KRM tooling better? But that's another model of consumption. Bundling, I think, is interesting, particularly there.
Yeah, I think that's like another area that we describe. Say like, hey, apply PSA policy, so and then it will apply all of them. So today the experience is like you have to figure out which ones are like the policy security standards, and then like say restricted bucket or whatever, and then apply one like each of them, which is just not great. Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
constraint creation would still be from users, right? Like we would just apply the template.
I think
I think it could be parameterized. I was thinking like users can pass in the parameters through Gator. Say like Gator install whatever, and then dash dash parameters. This is making up, and then say they declare the parameters in Gator too.
Honestly, like I think the end game with a well designed kind of like abstraction, users don't need to know templates exist unless they want to do something that requires template level customization, right? Like writing their own policies. And I think as far as like the bundling together of constraints and the customization of constraints, one interesting question there is, what is the story when users need to go beyond the neatly packaged kind of boundary that we've defined? And you can kind of see hints of this in the Helm charts, right? Where a user wants to modify some behavior that is not explicitly enabled by a Helm template, right? Like either they need to bake out the template, modify the manifest after the fact, or they're modifying the Helm template themselves, or sorry, Helm chart themselves. Is it like, because gatekeeper and constraints and templates, like there's a bit of possibility there, right? Like there's you can, because every constraint is like uniquely identifiable, right? Like exclude certain constraints or target specific constraints for customization. On the other hand, then you're kind of like digging into the internals of the implementation of whatever this bundling object we have is. It's almost like a forking story in that way, right? Like if you're doing like a git fork of a repo because you want to add some specific behavior, and then like you also want all the upstream updates, you want to benefit from those, but then you're kind of stuck with, well, how do I avoid like merge conflicts and rebasing and things like that? And so is that a question we ignore, or is that something that we can make easier? Can we disentangle those two questions?
By the way, I want to say welcome to David. David, welcome to the call. Because I think we'll just talk forever.
Yeah, no worries.
If you have any agenda items you want to bring up, you can.
Yeah, no worries. My internet's a little finicky, so I might be popping in and out, but yeah, no questions from me.
Okay. Yeah. Did you want to just listen in to the meeting today?
Yeah, essentially, just listen in. Hopefully, eventually, I'll be contributing a little bit more, but for now, just trying to soak in and ingest everything.
Cool. Do you use Gatekeeper?
Not a lot.
He works with me.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, I remember you. You were on the
Yeah.
in the call before. I see. Yeah, I
Yes,
remember. Yeah.
I have to use it and play around with it more than I do. But I guess part of that is attending these meetings.
Okay, cool. Yeah, welcome back again. Yeah, you were in a room before. I didn't recognize you.
Yeah, no worries. I also have a hat on right now, so.
Trying to go incognito to the meeting? Is that it?
Yeah.
That's why
Yeah. Yeah, I might be coming up with something. I think a bunch of people in the office were getting sick, so I'm kind of not really. So I'm like, I feel okay today, but we'll see tomorrow.
I mean, don't power through it if you feel.
Oh no, it's like if it is anything, it's like in the very, very beginning stages. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And you were looking at. Sorry, I'm gonna forget the specific issue right now. It was some behavior that oh right, the Gator thing in the expansion. Yeah.
Yeah. The expansion in Gator verify. which I think currently doesn't exist, but exists in Gator test.
Do we have an issue for that one?
Yes, there is an issue.
Okay. Yeah, I think I added the Gator thing for the policy management for next week. I think we'll do a triage, so we can talk about it then too. I think that's like a really good way for folks to get like the policies like without like going into the library or knowing much about like these sort of stuff. I think it can help a lot with the policy management.
Yeah, I think I mean I've worked a little bit with just the gatekeeper stuff, but then I haven't touched Gator at all, so I think it's a nice one to get started with.
Yeah, trying to basically find things that cover various concepts and various pieces of the code base over time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know I kind of like soapbox for a bit, but did people have thoughts on like bundling and policy management? Like basically Surtesh's idea of Gator could do more along those lines. Crickets.
So
Sorry, what was that a question? I didn't understand.
Oh yeah. So I sort of left an open-ended prompt around like, oh, this feels like a little like rebasing and like, because ideally people would worry only about constraints until they really needed to worry about templates and
yeah. So basically, like it would. They wouldn't have to deal with like templates at all because they would just say, "Hey, I just want to like restrict allowed images, whatever, right?" And then it'll just pull from the library, and then you only say, "Hey, I only want Docker Hub images or whatever," and then it'll basically kind of take care of that.
Yeah, and honestly, pull from the library, maybe. I mean, yes, but I think that should be customizable, right? Like they should be able to define some source of truth, whether that's like a directory or a Git repo, where they could pull through.
We could have like a host like a JSON file or something like that, and then I was thinking that the Gator can just read from there, so we would generate it in the library, right? Some similar way we do the artifact hub sort of thing, and then it would read from there, which basically the source of truth is the Git repo, and yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a cool idea and something. Sorry, go on.
this seems a lot similar to like crew plugin for K8s, or idea at least, like the
Oh yeah,
description.
so sort of like like the sort of Helm for
Yeah.
or Crew, similar ideas. Yeah.
Is crew spelled KREW?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Qctl
Yeah.
plugin. Okay.
Crew is pretty cool. It's like plugins for like kubectl. It's also similar to like say Brew a bit.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of Brew. I love it.
Yeah, well, in thinking about too, like composition and stuff like that, like maybe that's in scope, maybe not. Like I kind of constraints is you can mix and match them. Mutation is and will be an odd duck here, like whether we want to support that at all. Like mutation is such a different beast because it's not as severable, right? Like no constraint affects any other constraint. Mutations do affect other mutations, right? And mutations are not really parameterizable, at least how they're written. I took a look at the Kubernetes mutation cap. Honestly, if they do what they're doing, I feel more comfortable with Gatekeeper being more limited in terms of scope in how mutations work. Because one, like they don't have near the Kubernetes won't have near the safety mechanisms that we do, so users will already be able to express these like more powerful things that they want to express. Two, because it's running in the API server, they won't have latency concerns, right? And they can have multiple mutator policies, and they don't need to worry about the additive impact of reaching out to multiple mutation webhooks. And then like it becomes a question, where does Gatekeeper add value, right? And one way Gatekeeper adds value obviously is with expansion, right? Because we can like pre-mutate stuff. But honestly, we could do that with whatever K8s mutation primitives too. So there's no value lost there. Then it's with external data, and maybe if there's, I forget if we ever did anything referential beyond namespace. Probably not. But once you get into external data, you're talking about reaching out to another host name anyway to receive that external data. And at that point, you really need to be able to batch those requests. And part of why we're able to get away with batching those requests is because we can basically have that placeholder value. And we could do that because we don't have things like checking across fields, right? Because if you checked across fields and there was a placeholder value, there would be no way of resolving that. So one, if you're reaching out to external data, the latency question is already moot, right? So having another hop, Gatekeeper's not, it's harming like a little bit, right? Because there's now two hops, but it's also being beneficial in that it's like customizing the execution flow so that if you're reaching out to multiple external data sources, you could do that in parallel. I forget why I got off on a mutation tangent. Oh, right, how to bundle them. So that was my long way of saying, do we want to bundle? Do we care about bundling mutations? Given I really do think the internal K8s mutation stuff will mostly eat our lunch, other than like external data.
Yeah, I think so too. I think we'll have to probably do a similar thing, but with the admission. Yeah. Yeah, I think let's just do it for validation for now, probably. The bundling. I think that one is easy with the pod security standards. With mutation, I don't know if there's going to be any bundling sort of thing. And then we'll just wait for the Kubernetes guidance and maybe just adjust to that. Because even that doesn't exist today with like pod security stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and I think the VAP rewrite kind of thing takes priority over bundling in the short term. Do people disagree, or?
What do you mean, the bundling?
So the bundling would be the thing that you're describing, like developing
yeah.
workflows for bundling and consumption of bundles. You're muted if you're trying to talk, Jay.
Yeah. So you are suggesting that we should first migrate or write add cell codes for all policies and then focus on bundling?
Yeah, just whatever threshold of rewrite makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, there's some stuff that can't be written in VAP, anything with referential.
Yeah, I think that the cell stuff makes sense to be priority, like the adding cell to existing policies. And I think we can also do the bundling just manually, right? Basically in the website or whatever, we can just say, hey, these are the bundles, right? And then just like visually. and then have like some sort of mechanism to automatically push those bundles.
Yeah, I think one thing I would want to be careful of, depending on how much effort we want to put into it, is we don't want to grow any kind of like bundling solution organically, right? So if to the extent we build something that users rely upon that we want to like support back in a backwards compatible way, we want to put thought into it. But if we just want to like have samples of clusters of constraints that work well together, that's kind of like kludgy to consume, but at least it's like there. And we're like, this may go away, but it's kludgy anyway, so you weren't really relying on it, you were copying them to begin with, and we'll have
Yeah, I
something
think
better
only
later.
bundle that makes sense is the pod security bundles that like already established.
I mean, those are a very clear
Yeah.
example. I would doubt that that is the only useful bundle that is possible in the world.
Oh no, it's not. But I think like if we make our own bundles, that's just it's kind of okay. Like
We would want someone like who is just dedicated to that. Yeah, if we wanted to do that, because that's a very dynamic.
yeah, or we could have users make their own bundles, right? Like, hey, maybe say there is like a I don't know, like a Google bundle or whatever, right? So you could say like, hey, these are the best practices that we think it's great for all the users. So we're just going to put them in the bundles. And it could be like some sort of like a JSON file you import or something like that. So you kind of define your own bundle.
Right, and at that point, we're starting to get into more like fancier stuff with backwards compatibility and all that.
Yeah.
And that's
but then
where I would
that's
be
on the
like,
users to figure out like, hey, how do you like make your own bundle sort of way, and then you obviously have to maintain it yourself.
yeah, versus like
Like an
putting
official
it
like,
up
hey,
on the
this is the
website,
Gatekeeper library bundle. Yeah.
or creating a tarball or something, and like, yeah.
Cool. Do we have any other agenda items for today?
No.
Cool. I think the Rita will be back next week, and then we'll do the triage hopefully, and then think
She
about
already marked a couple, like few of the issues for 318. Before going off. So
Okay, cool. Yeah, let's discuss those ones when we meet next week. Yeah, looks like we already have. I'm gonna close 17 so open.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
just close. Cool. Any other topics we want to chat? If not, we can give the time back. Thank you all.
Good to see everyone.
Bye.